What's up, everyone? L the Alchemist here, and I have a very special guest, Andy Blackwood. And today we're going to be discussing his upcoming book, Noctulius, which is now dropped on Become a Living God, and that link is down below. So, without further ado, Andy, how have you been doing, brother?
Well, thank you for inviting me, Al. I'm honored to be with you. It's always a pleasure. And yeah, I'm enthusiastic because I'm releasing Noctulius Hudibars with um I consider it my most personal grimoire. If we get back to my previous work, I published a trilogy, Drogadotin,
Mhm.
Scholomance, and the Encyclopedia of Vampirism. And both of all of these books were basically knowledge that I gained from my mentors. So it was really a transcription of the European traditions of vampirism based on the ritual of Abramelin the Mage, or at least one of the versions of the ritual of Abramelin the Mage. Um, Noctulius is actually something that I worked on alone. And I worked on it since the beginning of my path with vampirism.
Mm,
Therefore, Noctulius was pretty much what we could call a niche entity. There were very few practitioners in Europe that tried to work with him at the time. Most of the literature that existed on Nocturius was in English, was from England, but it was really limited in terms of description and in terms of background, let's say archaeological background and such. So there was pretty much very small lines of text available on Nocturius. So uh, this grimoire is personal Moses on the Dark God. It's a series of archaeological researches that I conducted into Italian texts, into French texts also from the time of King Louis XV. So it's pretty much 18th century texts
wow.
where occultism was pretty big in Renaissance courts. I based myself also on English texts that are more recent, and I made researches on the culture of Brescia, which Noctulius originated from, which is a city of northern Italy that was first founded um, before the Roman reign in the region. So there is both pre-Celtic and Celtic traces of inhabitants in the regions. For
Mm,
people who have maybe read the work Citane by A. Moraine, you will find some similarities in the people that are described because um, people of that time are from the Beakers civilization. So, not the Beakers of England, of course, but pre Celtic people that existed, and their gods and objects of course were partially, let's say, transmitted to the Celts of Southern Alps. And then we still find traces of them in the Roman area, where you can find poems and incantations to Nocturnus, which is the god Nocturnus, um, in on statues and stones.
oh, wow. That's crazy. I had no idea when it's like almost not only from the past, but it was like hidden in the past. And so you had to like go digging in to history and looking into the significance in each of those cultures, around that area. That's uh that's really cool. I mean, to even spark you to learn about that. Like I had never heard of Noctulius till yeah. your first book, and it just like mentioned Noctulius and such. But yeah, to really get your personal gnosis with this being, and a lot of the highlights which you teach in this book are fucking fascinating. And I definitely, I guess I'll start off with one of them, talking about the different chakras in the system, and how working with maybe taking some of the third eye chakra is different from taking a solar plexus chakra, and kind of the different variations. And I was just wondering, like, with the vampiric strain and you being able to pull in energy, because I know without the vampiric strain, you can get the impurities and such unless you use like a radionics box. But other than that, you have to be with the strain to get that purified, that energy. What would the difference be with, let's say, you're pulling the root chakra instead of the solar plexus chakra from someone, and how can you like add that to enhance your vampiric body?
Well, technically, in the book, I rather use a Chinese system rather than the Indian as a reference. So I personally use myself the acupuncturist system rather than the chakra system. Now I have a basis on chakra taking. Generally speaking, when you absorbing from the solar plexus, you tend to target the ego of the person and reinforce your own. When you target the root chakra, you generally target the anchor of the person to the ground, the earth-based plan. So you will disturb the person in their material life, their ability to anchor to that particular mundane life, let's say. Um, Personally, I tend to use, and that's the second chapter of my book. The first one is the one that we start talking previously. It's all about the research on Noctulius and the occult work with Noctulius as a god, communion with Noctulius, pacts with Noctulius, and let's say the general philosophy of life that is implied by working with the dark god. Now, the second chapter is a form of advanced vampirism. So, why did I say advanced? It's because when you go to my previous work, I presented several methods of vampirism. The one that involved to touch a person, the one that involved to keep the person inside, but to drain the vital essences without the need of touching. Uh, Different form of rituals that implies to use mirrors or candles or symbolic objects. And of course, I ended up with astral travel.
Mm.
Uh, but there is something with every written book of vampirism that I possess. It's that generally stay very focused on the generalistic aspect of life essence, which is to take a life from target. And generally, if the person is associated to a strain of ended masters, this essence is going to be transmitted to the being that they are associated with or impacting with. And generally, it feeds these entities, and in return, this entity feeds the act. So there is a permanent transfer. And as you've mentioned, during this transfer, some things are, you know, bad energy is taken by the entities as well as good energies, and the essence that you receive is actually the essence of the entities. So
Mhm.
it's all shit. The advantage of the system is with acupuncture, I wanted to enter a very new level, which goes to make a difference using the Chinese system in the different types of energies that exist in the human body. So in China, this qualities of energy are referred to fire, water, uh, steel, wood, and earth. Now, it's not energies as it's not the same thing as the elements described by European Western magic, such as Franz Baden and other German magicians. It's it has nothing to do. Fire has nothing to do with physical fire, for example. It's rather a name that has been used as an umbrella, let's say, by the founders of acupuncture to describe a quality of energy that, for example, in the case of fire, is associated to joy, is associated with summer, is associated with red fruits and sugar. All these things are the energy of fire, but it's not, visualizing fire or anything like that. They just name fire some things that have certain properties, and it's true for every of these elements. So all of these elements are drained and are constantly moving, absorbed by the human body in every moment we are living, and travel inside the body through a complex system that are the meridians. And through the meridians, they give, and let's say they just like a water system will fluid, where it goes. Um, the meridians give a bit of this energy to every human organs. Some organs needs more of a certain quality of energy than others. Some don't need certain qualities of energy.
Mm.
When you are going to target, for example, let's come back to the energy of fire, you are going to absorb the joy of a person. You're going, of course, to boost your own joy, but you're also going to take particularly that of the person. And by taking fire, you are going also to have an effect on the organism of the person. So it's pretty much a whole system um, of magic that can be performed by taking certain types of energy at a certain moment.
Mm.
And of
So
course,
Oh,
uh,
so you basically plug into almost like a baneful operation of a certain source of energy that's going to be really more nutritious for your entire being to wash yourself with that to bring your own rejuvenation. So it's like the life and death essence all at once going on. And
yeah,
what's up, EA? Thank you for being here. I appreciate that.
hello.
Oh, we have EA in the chat. I was just saying
Oh,
what's up. But no, that's
so
really
welcome to the
that's
yeah, hope you're doing great. So yeah, it's pretty much a system in itself because when you're taking a certain type of energy, you are going not to just take rejuvenation as you will do with taking generalistic life force as it was described in Skull Events, but you are going to take the very thing you need on the person. But by doing that, you are also going to affect the person in a certain way. For example, the energy of water is associated with resistance to stress. So, if you want to target specifically a person in a professional situation to remove her from her ability to resist stress at work, you're going to target the energy of water. If you want a person to lose her capacity, let's say to have dynamic energy, you are going to target the energy of wood because it's the energy that is associated with the very moving forward attitude and this kind of thing. If you want to target a person who is specifically calm and you want to create a form of disorder, you're going to target the energy of steel. All of these energies are accessible through certain points. So the thing with the system is to be able to recognize these energies through a system of training that I describe in the book, and then to target the specific point where the energies are accessible by focusing on the energetic quality and take it inside yourself from your magical needs.
Wow. That's cool. That's like so like there's some morning qigong I'll do, and it goes through like the elements, the Chinese elements that you're talking about, and just kind of knowing what type of element as well as the location, given in the book. That's awesome. That definitely is a deeper level of vampirism because you're able to really tap into specifics. And I could see why that's an advanced practice because normally it is just like a generalized wherever the energy, but if you wanted to like really affect emotion and get yourself more joyous to be able to lock into that and for you to have a roadmap in the book, that is badass, man. That's that's so cool. When it comes with the vampiric current in general, do you find any associations with the like Nephilim, the Nephilim? I forget how that's pronounced. With like
Yeah,
the giants, is there like a line to that? You think?
there is one. So I had a friend, and I described that in both Rogadotin and Encyclopedia of Vampirism.
Mm,
Um, it's specific to some lodges and covens. Personally, I haven't embraced this particular optic, but I had a friend who was working with Nergal, and he had a whole theory and correspondences between um, basically the Sumerian and Babylonian pantheons and the Mesoamerican one. I guess it's the Mayans. With the couple of gods of the underworlds that were basically corresponding to Nergal and his consort. And there was a very interesting draconic aspect that was um, present in all of these gods. It was basically the same stories on two different continents and not even on the same periods because I Mesoamerican stuff was 1,500 years after the birth of Christ, while Sumeria was much older. And you had this nearly the same story, and there was pretty much a very similar cult of vampirism that involved vampirism in both cases. Now, this thing, as it is presented, isn't the one we got in Europe, but strangely, there is also, this bad archetype associated with vampirism is also found in Peru. And I discovered that there is a specific place in Peru where you got a society of bat shifting shamans that basically practice vampirism, and it's very similar to the Transylvanian Strigoi. So I guess the correspondences exist pretty much everywhere.
wow. Yeah, and when I read through your encyclopedia, which if anyone hasn't checked that out yet, too, like that was an awesome one because as there's different chapters, there's some that like I was like, oh, I want to work with this being, and other ones I was like, probably not. But Nergal, I actually we got to work with one time for like an underworld transformation, and yeah, just like reading into more of his history, I saw that it was pulled back to that Sumerian like way back then, and kind of seeing that stories and how it's kind of similar with the Greek stuff with Hades and such in its own different way and all that. But yeah, I felt like the vampiric strain was something that went back even more to the ancient times beyond just when it came up, in Transylvania and all that stuff. Like it had a earlier prior, so that's cool. That's a constellation that now connected the dot. I appreciate that.
You know, when
Uh,
um, Stoker was writing Dracula, and when he was you know, going with people of the Golden Dawn. There was a group of there was two sisters acting as mediums that I don't remember their names, but they describe the things that they were in contact with as a force that goes since the beginning of time and change its numbers at every generation. No, I guess numbers mean something in numerology, but it's basically a way to say, I guess, that vampirism is, let's say, rebranding at every generation and finding another figure, another name for the main archetypes they are going to place front. But you're always going to anchor yourself to a strain, and strains are pretty much like branches of a tree. It's pretty much something that I discovered with a friend working um, with him during these years. We discovered that basically each time we found pretty much the same source.
mm, that makes sense. Why different strains can all, I mean, that it's all part of that same system, the same foundational tree. And I mean, when it comes to working, do you have to be in the strain or can you do something outside it? Like I know in the deification spell book, um, I didn't get to read the whole thing, but it's kind of a soft way to enter the vampiric strain, but not fully in because I mean, even the vampiric strain or the strain of Noctulius in particular, I know that there's different things that come with it and like are added with it, as well as how your soul goes to in the afterlife. So if there was someone that was, I guess, someone such as myself, who's interested in the strain but doesn't want to be fully immersed in it completely, is there any way about doing that to work with it without having to be fully in it?
So that will largely depend on you, I guess.
Mm,
Um, yeah, when you work with these casual forces, in the beginning, you want to place limits, and these limits are ever pushed back. I was like, so it will largely depend on you to basically keep this form of independence that you want and not engage fully with a certain god.
mm.
From
So,
my perspective, I tend to consider that this is um, pretty much a recent thing when it comes to vampirism. I noticed personally that, a fun thing, but this thing attract more more people in the United States.
mm,
Um, and now by publishing these books, I chat with people a bit around the world, and mm, a lot of people that are into that have this culture of independence, of self, um, not preservation, but you get the idea, of not being fully engaged in something uh, like you were signing for the military. Why the previous generations, mm, things before the 50s, and texts that existed in Europe before the second half of the last century, were didn't have that idea of independence. You were basically signing a pact through darkness, and you were joining, and that's
Mm.
it. But it can be done, I guess. I haven't met, I must say, someone that will be practitioner of high level. Maybe Michael Ford. I don't know him that much, but maybe Michael Ford is the thing you should be looking for if you were looking at that direction, I guess.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, generally speaking, when you engage with this force, a lot of person that I know, and I've started with a very much independent mindset, and not wanting to be fully committed. After a few months of working with them, are just telling me, "Well, I'm going for the jump, and I want to be fully in that thing." So
Well, I can understand that though too, because like once you start seeing the effects of it, I you and I both have a mutual friend, and I just get to always hear about their experience and how it helps out their just overall well-being and vitality. And like, I mean, even this, I wanted to ask, like, your youth. Do you believe, like, when you're working with it, it's a great way to just help extend not only like how long you're going to be on this physical plane, but it's just a great way to just keep your overall spiritual being just like up and pumped and not able to get really tapped in or drained because you're connected with the strain.
yeah, personally, that's something that I noticed on the edit that I physically know. Um, that also came before me. Most were very much younger for the ages. The one that was directed directing the Green Order um, before me was nearly 100 years old. He died a bit before, but he looked a 60 years old man.
Wow.
Um,
Damn.
so yeah, there is. He was really autonomous to the end of his days.
Damn.
Um, and when it comes to Noctulius, for example, I think you might know a common friend. And if you have saw his recent transformation, you see that he tend to push people not only to act magically as vampires, but also transforms their bodies,
Mm,
to weaponize their bodies, let's say, to transform them into this very soldier-like archetype. So he is really pretty much into transforming even your physical into something that serve his purpose and his image. It doesn't, um, is very much into this idea pushed by Friedrich Nietzsche that the human is uh, a rope between the apes and the overman.
mm,
And basically, the people that I know that really engage with Noctulius are good example, I must say, on that.
damn. Now, I actually, when I had I did a ritual with our friend, and while we were doing it, he called forth vampiric beings, and my temple felt like there were physical gargoyles. Like working with spirits, sometimes they can bring that presence, but when I worked and did this working, it felt like gargoyles in the room that like if I turned around, I would be seeing this gargoyle standing there. And yeah, I didn't know. Like, have you ever had that kind of experience where it just feels like these massive gargoyle beasts when you're working with a vampiric strain? And does it feel like they're more physically there than even any demon that you work with?
Yeah, I tend to. I think what you saw generally the way that Strigoi appear, which mean giant bats, sometimes with demonic faces, generally with winged beings.
Mm,
Um, what I noticed on the highest form of vampiric spirits, I tend to place Dracul inside this category. I tend to place Noctulius. I tend to place another name, Nemenkent Ammon, which basically this physical this beings seems to be very dense.
mm,
Then they don't like looks like ghosts. They're not translucent. They're very compact when they are manifested, and they are at least 2 meters 50 high or something like that. For it would be 6'3" for people in the US, I guess. But 6'5". I'm not fluent with the feet system, but yeah, it's a giant thing. It's way taller than standard human. There's a very high.
mm. Yeah, you can feel that. That it was one of the most physical rituals I've ever felt of a being, and I was blown away because I mean I wasn't in the same country, and I still felt that feeling and that ritual itself. Like for the rest of the night, it felt like that gigantic gargoyle slash bat. Now I'm really thinking about it. I think it was a massive bat, but yeah, the density is definitely something that people, when you work with this, like you're going to be feeling that heaviness, that intenseness. So definitely have a angle of projection with your magic with it instead of just calling it. That's all I'm gonna say, without a
They tend
doubt.
to
Um,
often to appear on the side for me, of my side. They generally appear on the left side or the right side.
mm, yeah, yeah, mine was definitely right behind, but it was like over my head, like I could
Oh,
feel it above me, and I was like, "Oh shit! All right, well this is this is the real shit." What the other thing that before I ask you about your group ritual, I believe it's called Dram Drulia.
Romru-
Yes,
Rom-
the dream walking in the realms and all that. And I didn't know how you found that, and kind of like, is that like about astral projection to this realm, or yeah, if you could just
no,
explain
no.
some of that more.
The astral projection comes in the last chapter. This one is Drum Runa is a concept um, that exists in a lot of cultures under different names. I chose the name Runa because it was already, let's say, accepted in the English literature um, associated with Noctulius.
Mm,
Um, Runa is basically the deep understanding that the reality we lived in is a collective dream, an illusion. It's basically what the Buddhist or Hinduist call the Maya.
mm,
Um, but instead of awaking to as the Buddhists consider to pass beyond the veil, the idea of Runa is to manipulate the very nature of the Maya by reprogramming it, um, first through rituals and meditation, but then by reprogramming your mind constantly. So you are going to understand every day at every second that you are dreaming, and you are going to reprogram the dream in the same way that you would reprogram it in a dream by night, let's say. What you expect is going to happen in dream. So you are going to reprogram it for yourself, and you are going to reprogram it for others. You are going to obey a certain numbers of rules in order to be able to recreate the goals that you have.
So you can almost, it's almost like making your subconscious in your dreams being able to plug in that magical energy into creating that reality to where, because like I know when I have certain dreams, the rest of my day can like actually have a different remnant of that energy rubbed off into it. And so is it kind of like programming that so then it then rubs off into your reality that you're in right now? Is that kind of the concept?
Let me give you an example. Let's say, for example, that you have a certain objective, no matter what it is, a material objective. You're going, first and foremost, to understand that the very nature of the reality you live in, and you're going to meditate on it, is illusory, it's a dream. You're going to understand certain concepts that, for example, space and times are human illusions. So basically, if you want to have that money, you have to bring in the present the idea of already possessing this money. Then you are going to infuse this reality with blood, and in this case, with life essence, because you're going to project life essence into the reality um, to the point that it is so real for you that it is already happening. You are going to live with the certainty that it is going to come, and not with that it is going to come, but that it has already happened. And you are going to reprogram the world for others by obeying a certain numbers of laws when you are going to talk to them in order for their dreams, because they are dreaming too, to work for you by projecting their own life essence into your own dream. So basically, you are going to constantly uh, reframe your speech and reframe the perspectives of others for them to be believers in your own dream.
Ooh, wow. Wow. So that's not just your own
Uh, um,
programming. That's crazy.
if you listen, next time you listen to a politician, you will see that he is basically doing that all the time.
Yeah, by their words and their statements, they're making what you believe into what you think the reality is that they're trying to pull you to, even though they have their own schemes and their own payoffs going on in the background.
Yeah,
That's okay. That's crazy.
so
That's crazy. I like that.
they're always rephrasing uh, what the guy who is interviewing them um, is saying. It's a very common thing for politicians. They're always rephrasing um, the question that have been asked to them. And that way, they orient the topic and the way they're going to answer. And basically, they're bringing the interview in the direction that they want.
Mm. Honestly, it sounds like going into this is going to be able to help you become the predator versus being the prey of everything, you know, and actually not only your energy body and you being able to focus the direction you want to push that energy towards and helping you, but also unbinding you from other things that come about just by you becoming more conscious of that.
Yeah,
Um,
you're also going to extract yourself from the dream of others. You're going to basically reprogram the world around you according to your own objectives and perspectives, and not being trapped and absorbed as many people are since the area of the internet inside the collective fears and the collective uh, either fears or optimism for a certain thing, um, which is pretty much being absorbed in the dream of someone else. Because when you are doing that, when you're going to be enthusiastic for something that is going to happen, you are going to there is always someone or a group of people who have thought that at first instance. And when you're going to give energy and to believe them and to go into their vision, you're basically feeding their own dream instead of your own.
Mm, I like that. I like that. That reminds me of a Beelzebub mind control ritual I once saw. It's all about that projecting your vision onto others, and I'm getting more and more into wanting to jump into the strain. um, when it comes to your group right, I know the Dracul strain is different from the Noctulius strain, and from my understanding, it's more being ripped out of this quote book of life into the void, and I just kind of wanted to know kind of the angle for all those that sign up for this group ritual, what they're going to be jumping into, and kind of the projection towards all that. And then kind of the difference for those who have already jumped into the Dracul strain in the previous group rituals. That and then jumping into Noctulius, is there going to be just lots of overlap or still something unique and different?
It's complementary, in my opinion. The Dracul strain, for those who are already in it, as you may know, it's a system like a chain. There is an origin, and it goes to you, and you will transmit it to people that comes after you. It's basically an undead passing the torch to another, and basically all the spirits being attached to what I call the strain, which is, or is called the blood pool, which is basically a hive mind of spirits, and you become part of that association of spirits that are earth based and that are anchored on this planet. Noctulius doesn't work like work in the same sense. Noctulius is an individualistic god. He chooses people, but he doesn't bind them together. You work with Noctulius as an individual. There is only you and him. Um, and Noctulius is deeply associated with the mysteries of the void. The, basically, what is not inside creation, but it is what it is outside. What it is outside, but also served as a prima materia for creation in general.
Mm.
Noctulius is basically out of time by being in the abyss. So it's two different kind of works, still both are vampiric.
Mm. Wow. Yeah, the whole entire just connecting, it's just like that feeling like all in or not and everything along those lines. And I definitely I'm gonna have to meditate on that to see if I'm gonna hop in or not. But it all sounds so rejuvenating, building that astral body, building your physical manifestation of what reality you want from your body to not taking in any of the hard wiring of the other programs being sent to you. It just sounds like a really sovereign ritual to join in on and just helping out the overall spiritual journey. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be meditating upon that. But do you know the set date for the group ritual? I know that the book now is
November,
officially live.
November 30, because it's generally a date in Romania that is associated with vampirism in general. It's a feast of Saint Andre. Saint Andre was a Catholic saint, Orthodox saint, although, but he is a saint patron of wolves. And it's said that during the night called the Feast of Saint Andre, uh, the wolves are talking and are allowed to basically eat whatever they want. And it's basically the Eastern European Halloween. And the Strigoi, the spirits of the vampires, the undead, are said to be more present during that night because of the planetary alignment than on any other night of the year. So I've chosen the night of Saint Andre to perform the rite. And I think it's for people who are deeply invested in vampirism and are ready to take and push this thing to the extreme. It's something to do because um, the body of black light you develop with Noctulius is particularly dense, but most of all, the mindset is pretty much the apotheosis of vampirism. But you
Mm.
have to accept when working on that you're placing your feet in another level of existence, which is what we could call the mystery of the outside, the great old ones, and this stuff. So you might actually lose your human soul by transforming into something completely different.
Mm. I mean, that sounds so damn powerful. It's I love the night that you're doing that because it also embodies the whole like become a wolf or be eaten by the wolf. And so it has that predatory type of energy on top of it, alongside with the planetary alignments. That's awesome. If anyone has not already signed up for this, in the link in the description down below, blog.co slash indie blackwood slash noctulius. I believe that's it. It's it down below. Be sure to sign up for this book. It's now live and get on with this group ritual if you're ready to take it on to that next level. But thank you so much, Andy, for coming on here and just discussing all these things. It was really an honor for me to be able to just ask you some very specific questions that I had just reading the summary about what's in this book. And I'm definitely going to get my hands on it. And whether it's jumping into the strain or just continue to learn about it, it's got me excited. So keep up the great work, brother. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Noah. As always, I love talking with you, and well, this podcast are awesome. So I can't wait for the next one.
Definitely. We'll link up here soon. And everyone, if you haven't already, be sure to join in on this group ritual. And if anything else, get the book. But we'll talk soon again, brother. And thank you again for hopping on here. I appreciate it.